How secure is your business from a cyber attack? The threat may be bigger than you realize. Plus, chances are you know how to Zoom. You may even tweet, but can you rock a duet on TikTok? Today, we'll explore social media for your business. And later, a special look at the community perhaps hardest hit by the pandemic, our seniors. Expert Connections starts now. The pandemic has ramped up remote workforces, but these efforts to protect the health of employees may be putting the health of your business in jeopardy when it comes to cybersecurity. Welcome to Expert Connections. I'm Julie Holton. New numbers reveal a major increase in data hacks and breaches. In fact, data breaches exposed 36 billion records in just the first half of 2020. 45% of breaches featured hacking, 17% involved malware, and 22% involved phishing. And the biggest weakness for your business could be your own team, with 95% of cybersecurity breaches caused by human error. When it comes to cybersecurity, the unknown is dangerous. We put together a special panel of experts, our legal and marketing connections. Joining me, Taylor Gast, an attorney at Foster Swift, Tim Haynes of Symposia Labs, and Jesse Flores of SuperWebPros. Thanks to each of you for joining us today.
Thanks for having us.
All right, so a major misconception is that cybersecurity issues only impact the big guys. So let's talk about small business. Taylor, how do you see cybersecurity issues impacting small businesses?
Yeah, thanks, Julie. So I tend to think of kind of one broad issue and all sorts of effects, I guess. So we have an umbrella, we have data breaches and data security incidents. And it's a really broad pool of different events that could be happening. We could have, somebody who's taken over our system and we are basically locked out of it and is requesting a ransom, so ransomware. And we are being asked to pay Bitcoin or some other amount of money in order to get our system back. Or we might have phishing, where somebody's trying to gain credentials, passwords, usernames, other maybe sensitive information also, and using that to access other sensitive information. So very broad term, but important to understand that data breach generally means unauthorized access to sensitive information. And particularly from a legal perspective, that's especially important. But we also have incidents, which, data security incident could be just about anything. You've been hacked. These days, that's what you hear. You've been hacked, and could mean any number of things. And so we can dig a little bit into that. But high level, you see data breaches and security incidents. Within that, you see, theft, theft of funds, theft of, sensitive company information, intellectual property and trade secrets and the like. Another issue that we commonly see as an effect here is customer and employee trust, and a really, the hurt and the damage that relates to, if the public finds out or your employees find out that we don't have a secure system or we can't protect the sensitive information of even our employees, for example, that can lead to really, really problematic effects. The last kind of point I would touch on, just really high level here, is just the general legal risks that we also see. And those tend to be, in addition to some of the items I already mentioned, litigation, so maybe we've allowed or accidentally been kind of the victim of a cybersecurity breach, but the public, an employee could be, or a customer could be really upset about that and could sue the business. Similarly, a regulatory agency could come along and say, you guys weren't following the rules that we've set up here, and that could be a pretty expensive and problematic issue as well.
Okay, so what does cybersecurity have to do with marketing? We combined these experts for a reason. And Tim, I want to come to you. This is obviously something we care a great deal about in marketing. Tell us about why.
So modern marketing efforts are ultimately driven by technology. Because of this, the customer's data needs to be protected. Whether you're using a CRM or a customer relationship management tool as a database, or whether you're using something like HubSpot or Salesforce, whatever it might be, protecting that data is key.
Absolutely. Jesse, I talk with small business owners who say, oh, this security stuff is for the big guys. I don't have anything to worry about. No one cares about my little store or my little website. But this obviously is not the case. So why should small businesses be concerned? And how do they protect themselves?
Yeah, this is a great question. It's something that we certainly hear a lot. One of the big misconceptions that people have is that only companies like Home Depot or Target, right, those are very well publicized incidents, get hacked. What a lot of people don't realize, so you described earlier some of the different kinds of breaches, right? So there's hacking, then there's phishing, which is a separate thing. A lot of these kinds of things happen from automated tools and bots that are going out. So it's not like there's some guy in Kazakhstan or something who's sitting there thinking, okay, I'm going to target these 10,000 businesses today. That's not how that works. Usually, what it is they're using the same kinds of AI and automation tools that we use to attract customers, right, or to market at scale. They're using the same tools for nefarious purposes. And so, more often than not, they're thinking, okay, WordPress version X had this vulnerability. So let's write something that's going to exploit that vulnerability and take over or crash a website, because that'd be fun to do. Or if we can get somebody to open up this particular email on this particular client, then we know that we can load a piece of JavaScript into, they click on a piece of JavaScript and we can load something into their system that we know we can start to take over, other parts of their system or get access to information or whatever, right? So these things ultimately are not happening because somebody's picked you. They're happening because somebody's writing scripts and using marketing, copywriting, and AI and all these other kinds of things to figure out how to try and attract or trick you at scale or tackle something at scale. And really, I think about this, I think Taylor had a really great framework. I really think of this as having like 3 dimensions. There's your people, there's your processes, and there's your technology. And cybersecurity really is about making sure that that all of those, your people, your processes, and your technology are all steering in the right direction to make sure that you're being smart with data and information.
And certainly, when you install technology and then don't maintain it, or have someone there that knows what they're doing to keep it updated and maintained, we start to get those insecure places where, like you said, you become vulnerable. So, Taylor, what can businesses do to really prepare for, hopefully prevent, and if necessary, mitigate any cybersecurity issues?
Yeah, so I think kind of following along here, there's no way to entirely prevent any of this. It's a numbers game. At the end of the day, as we just heard, this is just somebody, setting out a number of traps, and eventually somebody's going to fall into it. So, certainly IT measures are important. Encryption from a legal side of things can actually cause us to avoid having to, worry about some of the problems of a data breach. So I would highlight that one in particular. Employee training can, of course, reduce, the likelihood that some of these things will happen. But from my perspective, the real most valuable piece here is to prepare for it. Prepare for a data breach, prepare for these incidents, have an incident response plan, practice it, make sure you know who you need to call when these things happen. The last thing I just mentioned is maybe, consider cybersecurity insurance as well, because that can be a helpful, asset to have in your back pocket if something happens.
Okay, Taylor. And so what happens if a business thinks that they're experiencing a breach? What is the first thing they need to do?
So we want to engage our incident response plan if we have one, regardless whether we have one or not. The real initial piece of that is pull your team together. Get a legal expert that can speak on this. Make sure that you have an IT expert who can figure out what's going on, put a stop to it if you haven't already. Get in touch with our insurance provider. Get the team together. Basically, that's going to be able to help you, because doing it yourself is going to be very difficult.
Yeah. Last question, Tim. I'm going to come to you. Any common mistakes that you see businesses make that we should know about?
Forgetting to use a secure password manager, such as 1Password, and forgetting to use basic security measures like two-step verification.
Those sound like great ways to quickly bring your security up to par. We've covered a lot of ground. Thank you to each of our experts. We want to make sure that you have access to additional resources from them. Head to WLAJ.com/expert connections and click the link Legal Connections. At this point, it may be safe to say that we can all add Zoom to our list of skill sets on our resume, or at least it's a work in progress. But what about LinkedIn? Now, before you become a naysayer about social media, know this: LinkedIn is the #1 global networking tool for businesses. And in this ongoing virtual world, it has become more important than ever. Our sales connections expert, Sherry Pash, is here to talk about LinkedIn as a way to build relationships and generate leads. Hi, Sherry.
Hey, Julie. I'm excited to talk about LinkedIn today.
So am I, Sherry. I thought I knew all about LinkedIn, and then I watched one of your webinars. So let's dive right in. First of all, tell us, why should anyone in business really care to spend time on LinkedIn?
That's a great question, because I hear that from a lot of people going, I just don't have time for LinkedIn. However, your customers may be hanging out in LinkedIn. So you need to know that if they're there, you need to be hanging out there too. This is where we can learn what's important to our customers and clients. We can watch the conversation. And you know what, Julie, this is a way for no more cold calls. This tool can be used to remove the cold part of a cold call.
Oh my gosh, what a great thought that is, I'm sure, for a lot of people working in sales.
Yeah, definitely. So what I like to say, Julie, with that, how you remove some of that is, think about when you show up to an event, you're going into a room and shaking hands with people, right? Well, LinkedIn is digital networking. So I want us to start thinking about our profile, our individual profile pages, as a virtual handshake. So we want to think about our messaging. We want to use our profile as an introduction card. So many times, Julie, don't you think a lot of people use it as an employment piece, right?
Right. It tends to be that online resume.
Yeah, exactly. But we want to say, if you're in business development, growth, membership work, any area that you're trying to grow connections and relationships, this is where we want to use our profile as a selling tool. This is where you can start to include things like your picture, for sure. There's a whole list of things that we can include in there, but we want to make sure that our summary within the profile, that if I land on your LinkedIn profile page, Julie, I can read about why I want to do business with you, who you are, what you do, why you're passionate about what you do, what some of your exciting goals are for your business. And that's how we get to know the people that we want to do business with, basically. But we want to write our profile like that, right? So that people know this about us, basically.
Absolutely. So Sherry, talk to us a little bit about how to then use some of these tools on LinkedIn. Like, for instance, the status updates or the blogs. I was just talking to someone the other day who said to me, and I know this is true across the board with a lot of people, she gets more leads from LinkedIn than she does from her website. So if that's the case, how do we use some of these features like blogs and status updates in order to really generate leads?
Exactly. You want to use LinkedIn as a mini website, basically. This is where people are learning about you. You want to make sure you become an expert and a resource to your connections, which are your potential customers, your business connections. So this is where, when you post updates, you're becoming that resource. You're becoming known for the work that you do. And you also, more importantly, want to watch your wall, because your clients, your members, your donors are also posting updates, and you want to engage with where they're hanging out. You want to learn those things that are important. But as your own profile tool, get out there and publish. You can post or you can publish, right? And when you publish, that's like a mini blog, and that's educating your network on a topic that's of interest to your work and your business. So it's really important that that we post, and we also blog. And the blog is notifying your network that you've just posted basically some information. So really critical that you understand the different elements, because LinkedIn has so much, and it's a free tool, Julie. That's what I've said. I was selling long before LinkedIn was around, and we are just being handed information to close sales from our clients, basically.
And there's so much information to be found on LinkedIn. Can you talk about using maybe some of the advanced features, like some of the search functionality?
Yeah, definitely. If you're somebody who needs to build a prospect list, or, kind of business development in any way, you can go into the advanced search, the search button up there, and type in who you're looking for. Am I looking to talk with CEOs, plant managers? Who do I want to do work with? And you can put in, it's got a powerful queries sheet, and you can put in exactly what you're looking for, location, titles, things like that, Julie. And it will pop up a list of potential for you, and you can look to see, do you have a shared connection with that person even? And we know the value of shared connections in person, right, as well as through digital at this point. So it's amazing what the search optimization does within LinkedIn for your business. So you are out there, you could follow those companies, you can search for those companies. There's so much, we could just do a whole training on just LinkedIn right now, because it's so robust in what it can do. And that's where the same thing, it's a business retention tool as well as a new sales tool, but use it to find new customers and clients that you didn't know were out there. And you can search for exactly who you're looking for. And this can be done on the free version.
And I love, Sherry, how you described earlier this as like a virtual handshake, especially right now when we're still not back to these in-person events like we'd like to. We really need that virtual connection. Sherry, I know you provide a lot of resources. You do regular LinkedIn training. So we're going to go ahead and link to that on our website so people can follow and sign up for some of your trainings for more information. Sherry, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Julie.
Now, for a look at these regular virtual LinkedIn trainings, head to our website, wlaj.com/expert connections. Click the link for Sales Connections, and there you'll find a link to all of Sherry's upcoming trainings. Depending on your target audience, it might be time to look beyond LinkedIn to platforms like Instagram and TikTok. Marketing Connections expert Paul Schmidt is here to show us one key trend driving engagement on all of these platforms. Paul, it boils down to just one word: video. Good to see you.
Good to see you, Julie. Thanks for having me back.
Absolutely. Okay, Paul, you are the owner of UnoDeuce Multimedia, a video storytelling agency based in Lansing. Give us a short rundown on the short form video platforms that are trending right now.
Well, let's just start with the big one, the one that got everybody's attention, and that's TikTok, and which actually evolved from a different platform called Musical.ly, which was still a video service, and they can do up to 60-second videos. Very community driven. The other one that became popular was Reels, which is an Instagram tool, and that can give you videos up to 30 seconds. And also YouTube throwing its hat in the ring with their own 15-second video, short form video platform called Shorts. Now,
oh my gosh. Okay. How do people choose which one to use?
well, it really boils down. I know that people will be like, yeah, what do I choose? Well, if you have an established audience, that's where you should be. For instance, I produce a YouTube show called The Foreign Fork, and she uses Reels instead of TikTok because her Instagram audience is huge. So that's where that works out there. So that's what I suggest people to go to. Go to where your audience is. Although TikTok can really get you a big audience. So that is not something to ignore. And some TikTokers have used their videos to repost into Instagram and Reels as well to expand their audience.
Okay, time for one super quick question, Paul, but I've got to ask, is this a fad or do I need to jump on board?
I don't think it's a fad. I think you should really look at especially TikTok and Reels. I think maybe YouTube Shorts is kind of weird because they're more longer form. And so, but I don't think overall that it's a fad at all. So,
All right. So it's not going anywhere. Paul, thank you so much. Our other marketing experts weigh in on all things video and a special web extra. You can find it online at WLAJ.com/expert connections. Just click the link for marketing connections. A Lansing nonprofit is making sure teens have access to important resources and education about healthy relationships, which means they've made a major pandemic pivot.
These things don't just go away. Relationships continue on, whether we're at home or we're out in the world. And so we decided to create our own online academy called Ready, Set, Aspire, where we're able to have private courses, public courses, and provide a lot of resources to help teens and their families when it comes to these topics.
You also have a new e-course called Mastering Me.
So Mastering Me is kind of like the first step to having healthy relationships. It's all about how to have a healthy relationship with ourselves.
Mastering Me is open to everyone. We've created an easy link for you on our website. And while you're there, you'll want to check out details on an upcoming festival.
It's called Ready, Set, Aspire, the festival, hosted in September 25th. It'll be a day for youth and their families to learn how to support healthy lives and ultimately become the people they aspire to be.
Learn more about Aspire relationship education online at WLAJ.com. Now we turn to today's Heart and Soul Connections with Nancy DeBoer from She Leads Michigan. Nancy, we've spent a lot of time in today's show talking about technology and the power of building virtual connections. It's all important, but the value of personal relationships can tend to be diminished in the virtual world, don't you think?
Absolutely. And so many of our senior population has been isolated and kind of faced a depth of loneliness they may have never had before.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's safe to say that they've perhaps been the most impacted, most widely impacted community throughout this entire pandemic. Many seniors have not even had any control over their isolation because of different guidelines put into place. So just imagine a horse walking the halls of a local senior center. That's right. She Leads Michigan honoree Annie Schiller of Miracle Meadows Ranch in Adrian, Michigan, has found a really incredible way to bridge that gap with her dogs and horses. She joins us now to share her story. Hi, Annie.
Hi, Julie. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Annie, I spent years serving on the board of directors for the Alzheimer's Association of Michigan. So this really hits home for me, what you're doing with seniors in particular. What inspired you to first reach out to the senior community?
Well, I think years ago, a church that my mom went to, she would often go to the local memory care facilities and nursing homes. And she asked me one time if I would bring my dog, Amos, just to visit. And it was after that time, almost 30 years ago, I took Amos, I did some fun tricks with him. And when I seen the joy and the laughter that it brought these people, I just found my niche. And it was just like, you know, when you walk in a room and the room just lights up, and I was so amazed what the power of this dog could do.
Yeah. How do you have like a story of someone in particular that these animals have really touched with their quality of life, Annie?
Yes, I do. In fact, it's one of my very favorite stories. And it's just a recent story as well. I have a young dog and his name is Huckleberry. And when I was first training Huckleberry, he would go to the facility with me. And he was only about 13, 14 weeks at the time. And we went into this facility that I go to often, and he gravitated towards this gentleman and would go and lay at his feet. And I'm working two other of my older therapy dogs. And this little dog that's very attached to me would just leave me and leave the other dogs and just lay at this gentleman's feet. And it took me a few times to kind of go, wow, there's something to this, because every time I went, he would do that. So I started to communicate with this gentleman and just kind of find out his story. And his story was he had no family. He had no family whatsoever. No family, no friends, nobody that came to visit him. And instantly, I knew that God had ordained this. And my little dog, Huckleberry, chose him. So I started calling, his name was Richard. And so I started calling Richard the chosen one. And, you know, that little nickname for him was so impactful to him. The first time I said it, he just started to weep. Nobody had ever told him he was chosen for anything or the chosen one. And so over the last couple years, we became like family. He would play soccer with Huckleberry after church services. We would go for walks. I got to know him. And this little dog just loved him. And I just believe that it bridged the gap and it showed the love of God through this little dog. If you would have seen Richard in the beginning when I first met him, he was very depressed. He was he felt very rejected as he had no family or friends. And to see the joy that this little dog brought him was just amazing. And before he passed, they allowed me into the facility because Huckleberry and I were like his family. And to see what this little dog brought to him and showed him the love of God is something that I'll never forget. And I know when Richard died, he knew that he was loved not only by God, but by us as well.
That is so beautiful. So as you have gone through connecting people and animals, and you see this, some kind of connection with the unanswered questions of life and bringing them out of what they've been through, I wonder, you know, we are kind of coming out of this isolation with tech and all of that oppression of tech, and maybe, you know, we have a little bit of that going on. And I wonder, you know, are there any kind of things that you have learned in working with animals and people that could help us in having some success with different techniques? What would you recommend, Annie?
I think one of the biggest things that I've seen, and especially because my heart is really working with dementia and Alzheimer's, that don't ever underestimate the value of just being present with someone. There's more ways to communicate than just verbally. And I think that's a big thing. You know, when I talk to families about that there's more ways to communicate than verbally, it's like this light bulb goes off. And I think just being present with them, being engaged, being with them, I think is just we just don't value that enough.
Certainly something that we've all could use as we come out of this pandemic, just presence and peace of mind with that. Annie, thank you so much for sharing your story today. To hear more from the women of She Leads Michigan, head to our website, WLAJ.com/Expert Connections, and click Heart and Soul Connections. Thank you for joining us for Expert Connections. I'm Julie Holton. We'll see you back here next Monday.
Expert Connections is executive produced by mConnexions Marketing Agency in collaboration with Foster Swift Law Firm. Strategic Solutions for Growth. SuperWebPros, Symposium Labs, UnoDeuce Multimedia, and She Leads Michigan. A special thank you to our Style Connections partners, Polka Dots Boutique, The Standard Spa, and Beauty by Wilder. Visit our Style Spotlight online at WLAJ.com/Expert Connections.